In the 17th century, an inspiring host gathered people together, the purpose to increase their knowledge through conversation. These gatherings were called salons. Guests would debate a topic for the evening, mostly books, then eat and drink tea.
I want to just do a few welcomes. Professor Emmanuel Bosqua, who's the Vice-Chancellor of the Communication and Technology University of Ghana, and who is the Chief as well. Welcome. Another good friend of the university, Professor Robert Hinson, who's the Pro-Vice-Chancellor at the same university. Prof, I don't know how often to welcome you. I see every time I'm here. Welcome, Prof. We just need to give Prof his citizenship, and then we don't have to welcome him many times. Also want to welcome the management and executive committee of UJ. They're all over. I met some of them around here. The rest of the staff at UJ, I want to welcome all distinguished guests. Actually, all of us are distinguished guests today. Because not everybody could get in, right? The others are watching from very bad Wi-Fi, wherever they are. But we get in the real deal life. Members of the media, students, ladies and gentlemen, and our guest today, who's usually the main man, Professor Letlhokwa George Mpedi. Prof, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for setting time aside to come and spend some time with us. I know that you landed this morning. You're really tough.
I'm tough, right?
I'll be sleeping.
I got off stage yesterday in London at 4. Wow. And I was in Westminster. And I needed to run to the airport in an hour and a half and catch the flight. Wow. They said to me, I'll never make it. I said, I made a commitment to the University of Johannesburg, and that I'll be here. And that's why I'm here. I'm here, Prof.
Thank you so much.
So I'm doing it with the greatest of pleasure.
Yeah.
And honored to be associated with the university.
Well, thank you.
Prof,
before you start, I know I said this to your show, I'll keep quiet. But ladies and gentlemen,
Prof, you need to be a very good guest.
Yes, but I have to share this, and you cannot say it yourself. Ray Ikalafeng right here, who's a man who needs no introduction, is somebody that, is going to get one of the highest honors you can ever get at the University of Johannesburg. He will be graduating soon with an honorary doctorate from the great University of Johannesburg. I thought I should mention this. Congratulations.
Thank you, Prof. That's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, in 2 weeks, yeah.
In 2 weeks. But Prof, unlike the rest of the country, I'll still be Tebe Ikalafeng.
Yes.
But I'll just be doctor in relation to you.
Yes.
But the rest, I'll be Tebe. Just the way my mother named me, right?
Yeah.
Prof, I want to start with the end of the book.
Yes.
And I went to the end of the book, and I was skimming through the end of the book, and because I want to make sure that what topics we're going to be talking about here, Prof. Right. And in your acknowledgement, you say, I can confirm that the views expressed in this book are solely those of the author and do not reflect the opinion of the publisher or the University of Johannesburg. Prof, it's impossible. Whenever you open your mouth, the university is talking. Why did you feel the need to say that?
The lawyer in me, always tries to do what is right. But what you're saying is, is correct. I mean, now when I write op-eds, I stopped saying I express my own opinions because, there isn't much that I can do without being associated with the University of Johannesburg. But the lawyer in me thought, do I exclude only the publisher? And I thought, no, because the university, is linked with this project. I was inspired also by the university to do this. The royalties, from the sales of this book go into a bursary fund. I thought people, should know that if they try to associate this with the university to try and get something, at least I said something.
You said
but
something.
It's difficult to separate
It's
the
difficult,
two.
right?
Yeah.
Prof, I was looking at, in the introduction, Dr. White wrote in a forward, and I think maybe it's also a good place to start as well. Yeah. He's talking about how most books on contemporary leadership are always referencing non-African. Yes. They'll go Jack Welch in business, they'll go Alibaba, what's his name, Jack Ma. They reference all those people that many of us cannot relate to. You took quite a different approach.
Right.
And you decided, I want to write about leadership,
Right.
but I'm going to use proverbs.
Yeah, yeah.
Why did you go that way? And why do you think that approach is relevant in an African context?
Yeah. Look, it started it started many years ago, growing up at the village, listening to the elders, They would convey a message, using proverbs in a way that is less threatening, but so profound and unforgettable. So many of the proverbs I'm using in the book are those that I grew up with. And then when I assumed leadership roles at the University of Johannesburg, I led great men and women. At universities, they are all smart people. And sometimes to convey a message, you need to get down to basics and stop acting like another smart one. And I realized one thing. Whenever I used African sayings to convey a message, be it here or overseas with partners, people would come back to me and say, hey, what you said is really deep, Can you write it down for me, and so on. And I realized that there is a lot of value in using this in leadership to ensure that, you move with your team. But going back to basics. And our forefathers led through these sayings. And today, anything, and mostly, you get the impression that African, approaches are found not to be important. So that is what inspired me. And talking about Dr. White, Dr. White was my lecturer. Actually, once a teacher, always a teacher. He's always my lecturer. He taught me at the Said Business School in Oxford. I wrote an op-ed which he saw, and then he asked me, when he gave a talk at the Johannesburg Business School, said, can I please use this African saying? I said, it's not mine, but please go ahead, use it. And I said to him, I'm working on a book, and it will be an honor if you could write the foreword. At that stage, I haven't even typed the word. He said, as soon as it's ready, I will. And he wrote that, and he really embraced this African approach.
He did, because I think what he also then did, which is interesting, he tried to answer the one big question.
Yes.
I guess it's Chinua Achebe always talk about, until the lion learns how to tell his tale, tales of the hunter will always be glorified.
Yeah.
So in a way, you gave Africa a different way to talk about leadership, isn't it?
Yeah.
In this.
That's right.
And then, I wanted to begin with you first.
Yes.
I'm sure everybody knows you in the university. I hope they do. If they don't, I'll ask them to Google you. Because, there may be people in university who don't know you exist, Prof. But who really know you.
Yeah.
When they named you Letlhokwa George Mpedi,
Yeah.
what's behind that name? Because in the African context, they say, Kastswana, Lina Lebese Romo, your name becomes your destiny.
That's right.
What were they meaning? Because what is Letlhokwa? Because Letlhokwa to me is like a stock of matches.
No.
Oh, sorry, I just want to make sure. No. But that's why I want you to help us.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you so much. I got this name. This used to be the name of my grandmother's great uncle. My grandmother always called me uncle, and people find it weird. How can this old lady call this boy uncle? Because I was named after her great uncle. And Letlhokwa is not the majestic or something like that. When I praise myself, I say, Ke Letlhokwa la tsela ntsebele motho sebela kwa ha. Ke Mpedi ke tlo uye kgolo. And I go on and on. So, Tlhokwalatsela is a plant that normally grows next to the road. Actually, it's on the red list of the South African National, where's Prof. Anna, Asanbi, about plants and so on. It's on the red list. It's used in traditional medicine to cleanse people's blood. So travelers who, when they had some challenges when they were walking, there were no cars, taxis, and so on, they would always pick up Tlhokwalatsela and drink, and they will feel good. So that is me.
I love it. It's so important because our names carry so much more than just, it's not just a location, but it's a whole history.
That's right.
Because, you say, as soon as you introduce yourself, you heard other Zonas and Pedis, because they can relate to what that says, right? Prof, I want to go straight to the meat of the book.
Yes.
You did not shy away from topics.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at what you did in I've combined chapter 2 and chapter 3.
That's right.
You went straight to corruption and ethics.
Yeah.
And I found that quite fascinating that that you tried to deal with those two ills of society in an African way.
Yes.
And I just want to talk a little bit about that in terms and the sayings which inspires the solutions or the challenges that we are facing in those two areas.
Yeah. Look, firstly, I started with teamwork.
Oh, I know,
Because-
but Prof,
I'm coming to it.
Prof, I'm facilitating, so I pick and choose the chapters.
Yes. No. I wanted to start by talking about teamwork because I felt that if we work together and in the right way, then we'll be able to deal with social ills such as corruption, which comes early in the book, and also ethical leadership.
Yes.
Because, there are sayings such as power corrupt and so on. And through these chapters, my message is that one can be a good leader, and that is ethical, and that is not corrupt. And if you look at the chapter on corruption, it's also an issue of money, for the love of money. When people think, look, I take a little bit, or I'll do this, and then end up being extremely corrupt. Actually, corruption, let me not talk about it in terms of measures and so on. Corruption is corruption. So with those chapters, I preach, and using African sayings, about corrupt-free leadership that is honest. And you look at some of the areas I touch on and the sayings I use, you would see that you cannot say I'm a corrupt-free leader while associating with other corrupt people, because you end up being corrupted. And it takes strength, because once you have a position of power, you get all sorts of people now wanting to associate with you. There is one saying that I like, which says, basically, if by the way, this connects also with quarrelsome people.
Yes, it does.
That ends up not having association, that don't have people they can work with. So basically, if you associate with corrupt people, you will also be corrupt. And there is this saying that show me your friends, then I'll tell you your manners.
I'll tell you your manners.
Yeah.
And I mean, I liked it because you dealt with them up front. So
Yes.
it was chapter 2 and 3 where you deal with these two chapters. And I found it quite fascinating that you were not afraid to go to the chapter. But something that's also interesting about the book, for those who have not seen the book, is the similarities across many cultures.
Yes.
And in your writing, I found that you were able to find the similarities in the sayings, or the same saying said differently.
It's true. I mean, as Africans, we'll think that we are different. And Africans, I'm not referring to as in black like you and me, in the broader sense.
We're not black, we're dark.
We are dark.
Yeah.
This morning we were talking about dark chocolate, and now we're talking about this. Okay, as Africans, in the broader sense of the word, we've got so many similarities in how we deal with things. I found it so fascinating when you look at some of the sayings, you find out, there's a similar saying in Tanzania, saying the same thing. Yes. In Southern Africa, there's the same, saying, but that basically conveys the same message.
And you did that so well, because, I mean, in most of the chapters, you actually you'll pick a Egyptian, Tanzanian, Ugandan to illustrate. And I think especially coming from South Africa, where we typically tend to separate ourselves. I think what I absolutely love is how you were bringing. So, I mean, was it also intentional that you're trying to show our quote unquote our similarities, or was it coincidental in happening, or were you quite intentional?
No, I was intentional about that, because many of the colleagues who know me, I always talk about some of the things that we as South Africans are doing. Sometimes South Africans have a tendency of talking about Africa as if South Africa is not part of it. And I'm saying, as academics, we fly over Africa and go to Europe. There's nothing wrong with that. We fly over Africa and go to North America. There's nothing wrong with that. But we do very little on the continent and amongst ourselves. So the aim was to show that, there are so many similarities. All we need to do is to work together and with an open mind.
The other, what I also, I thank you for that, because that's sort of the sense that I got. But the other thing that's also interesting is the parallels between how Africans think and how Western think.
Yeah.
Because I think you did a lot of that as
Yeah,
well in the
yeah,
book,
yeah.
that you try to show the parallels
Yeah,
between
yeah.
Western approach to problems and
Yeah.
African approach.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'll give you one example that comes to my mind. When you eat with Europeans in Europe, and they bring the food, they'll say, eat, it will get cold. And I was raised, we have this saying that the mouth that eats insults the one that doesn't eat.
That doesn't eat.
So we wait until everybody has got a plate, then we eat. And to the point that this is how I was raised. If I have, a plate full of food and we don't have enough for the next person, then we share. Because the mouth that eats insults the one that doesn't eat. Yeah.
But where I wasn't disappointed. I was just wondering why in many, in a whole lot of book, you rarely used the vernacular.
Yeah, yeah.
And you mostly translated the saying. Yeah. Did we lose anything in doing that? If you think about what Ngugi wa Thiong'o, for example, he was jailed for writing in Kiswahili. And he said something interesting, because he says, the man who is articulate in a foreign language, but inarticulate in his home language, is enslaved. Yeah. Who are you writing this book for? In that you wrote mostly in English.
That's right.
I thought you should just have completely paralyzed us and written in Kiswahili, in Yoruba, and all those, and we must translate it ourselves.
Look, I'll tell you, even if I say it myself, I think this book is timeless. And if there is any business school that is worth its name in Africa that wants to teach about African leadership, Dr. Carolison, this is the book that must be prescribed. So I think this is the start, and there are opportunities for this to be translated in different languages, and these are things that I'm looking at. In terms of local sayings that I was really confident about, saying this is how it's written, Setswana, which is the language I speak, I did that. And a little bit of Zulu where necessary, and Venda, I went to friends and I asked, just double check. Other languages, I was just hesitant because I didn't want to misspell things or write things the wrong way, and that could ruin what is otherwise, I believe, a good book. So it's work in progress.
And what makes me confident that those sayings are correct? Yeah. I just want to know. Yeah. So in your writing, did you then call Hinson and say, Hinson, is this correct in Twi? Is that translation? Because I moved it from Twi and I put it in English. Yeah. Did I translate it correctly? Because sometimes, when we translate, we lose so much. Of course, that's right. Of course, the beauty of this is that you have explained it well in English. Yes. But I just want to know in the translation, because the English-speaking person is only going to have the English version of it. Right. And they're going to walk around and pretend to be Africans and say things. No, it's true. Did you lose anything in the translation or in your writing? How did you ensure that you are moving, you are staying within? Yeah.
No, it's an important question that you're asking. What I did is I stayed with the most widely known and widely used. I read a lot, and many I encountered in many of my readings, some with my engagements with various people who speak the language. Some I spoke to people I knew that I was not comfortable with. I need to make sure that what goes out there is appropriate. For example, I spoke to some of my Ghanaian colleagues, particularly my former postdoctoral research fellow, that we talked a lot about some of this and a few other people, but the majority are the most widely used. And I found it quite interesting that some are claimed as being originally said by some president, only to find that these are African sayings. Another thing, if I could show you a file of articles I read about African sayings, it's incredible. There's a lot that is written, but from a language point of view, with also translations and so on, and that helped a lot. Did I cover everything? Most definitely not. Somebody said there is scope for another book. I believe so. I've already started collecting and making my notes, but when will that come out? We'll see.
So while we're on that,
Yeah,
the other thing which you did, and I was trying to get my head around it, is you had African proverbs or saying,
Yeah.
and then you had Ghanaian, then you had South African,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you had ones which are language linked, Yoruba, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
What's an African saying, and what is a South African saying? What was the distinction? So was it a transversal
Yes.
proverb, or
Look, I would say all of them are African sayings, because they emanate from the African continent, I would like to believe. If you look at the book, and even at the beginning, I did say that majority of the sayings are from my language, which is Setswana, and these are many of the sayings. Many have got a personal meaning to me because I grew up with those sayings, inspiring me, helping me to dream, and so on. But to answer you, I would say all of them are African sayings, but there was a huge reliance on sayings that were close to my heart, or I grew up with, and then in between I'll pull relevant sayings that I've come across, on the continent and connected with that. And I felt strongly that this book will not be a book about African sayings if it's only Setswana and a few Zulu. I feel bad because I've got only one Afrikaans saying. That is one thing that but I'll add more in the second book and so on. So I'm going to collect more and so on. But to answer you, all African sayings.
they're all African, right?
Yeah.
Because I think maybe part of it, I imagine you say that because part of our role as job as Africans
Yeah.
is also to educate
Yeah.
everybody, not just about the sayings,
Yeah.
but also in to educate on how to speak about us.
Exactly.
Because when you go to Google, you've got African sayings, they've got the 70 African sayings.
Yeah.
And then they've got Yoruba sayings, whatever, different languages.
Yeah.
I want to go to a contemporary challenge that
Yes.
we are facing. And I think it's one of your chapter, it was chapter 24.
Yes.
And you talked about cheating.
Oh, yes.
And I wanted to combine it with chapter 3 because it also speaks about ethics. And I wanted you to just to speak a little bit about that, in the context of state capture, disputed PhDs, no names mentioned, all those, and this thing in South Africa and the rest of the continent of wanting to claim to have a particular degree, even if you're just there for an hour. I want to talk a little bit about your lessons from our culture, what it says about that.
Our culture and the African sayings discourages shortcuts. People taking shortcuts. If somebody cheats, one wants to arrive somewhere quickly in the quickest possible way. And our sayings clearly warn us, telling us that you may think you are successful, but that success won't last for a long time. You get sayings such as, you can't climb a palm tree with your hands in your pockets. I mean, those who know a palm tree, you can't, it's a fact, you can't climb it with your hands in your pocket. So African sayings, African culture really warns us against taking shortcuts and cheating and lying our way to the top. We've got this saying that lies have got short legs.
Yes.
Like these guys, no names will be mentioned, that thought they would hide the fact that they didn't have proper qualifications. They thought they were winning, and now look.
And it's coming out every day these days.
It's scary.
And I'm wondering whether is it an awakening, a values awakening, or what's happening, or people, because every week there's somebody who's been unveiled to have.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about cheating from wives and all those, because I think that one we can't fix.
Yeah, no. And it's above us. Yeah, it's beyond us.
That's why in Islam they give you the latitude. They say you can have 4. You can cheat with 4 openly.
When I told my wife that I'm going to be coronated as a chief, the first question she asked me,
how many wives can you get?
No. She said, are they going to give you wives? I said, no. Then she said, it's fine. Honestly, my view is that what is happening today is something that, without getting involved in things that we don't know, but to use that as a lesson for others, that look, there's no shortcut to the top. You have to work for success, and look at these examples. You will be caught.
And I think it's such an important, because we're in an academic institution,
Yes.
and people are now writing their doctorates with ChatGPT,
Yeah.
or just ChatGPT or something. So they
ChatGPT,
don't, nobody studies anyway, just punch in the keywords and you got your thesis. But I like the saying that you have there, that one falsehood spoils 1,000 truths.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, it's got short legs, and and what you say as well is, at some stage you get caught.
Yeah.
So, one of the things you talk about, Jay, is that leaders must learn to they must commit to shared values and goals. How do you do it, or what did we learn from our culture on how we share those values? Because I mean, you're leading a very one of the top 3 institutions in the country.
Yeah.
And how do you ensure, or what do we learn rather from our culture on how to share these values among all these people who come from so many disparate places, and disparate and desperate places?
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, it's all about leading, by example. It doesn't have to talk about these values, these things, and so on, while in reality, you are the opposite of that, I think it starts with that. And people who may believe cheating is the way to the top, if people who have made it or who have achieved certain things can also continue to share how they arrived, where they have arrived, and share and mentor next generation. I talk about mentorship, so I'm not going to chapters, but I talk about mentorship.
I'm coming to the chapter, bro. Don't worry about me.
Yeah, that also plays an important role in ensuring that, people look up to others and see them as role models. Because in our culture, role models are extremely important. There's lots of sayings about mentorship. There's sayings about humility and so on. So all of that comes together in one's leadership. And it's something that we really need to focus on.
And I think, Prof, from what you've said, and that's, I think, the beauty about this book, that it is not a you must do.
Yeah.
It is, this is what shaped who we are.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I like about it.
Yeah.
There's one chapter I'm particularly uncomfortable with.
Yes.
It's chapter 13.
Yes.
The chapter on hope.
Wow.
Isn't hope the problem, the reason we are where we are in the continent today?
No, I don't think so. To be honest with you, once you lose hope, you're as good as dead. One must always hope for a better day, it's not an African saying. There's something that always kept me going, which is, basically what it says is that, often when you give up is when you are close to your blessings, So living in hope, for a better day, it's not a bad thing. I think hope kept me going alongside the many African sayings. I mean, it's not a secret. I'm not from a wealthy family, but we didn't sleep without food. Definitely, we had something to wear, but we always knew that there are priorities in terms of things. But having dreams that one day I'll grow up. Many people know about what I dreamt about because hope is linked to dreams. One of the biggest things I said when I work, the first order of business, I had homeboys who said, well, they are getting married. Marriage was the last thing on my mind. I was going to buy a duvet set.
You got duvet set?
Yeah. So I had hope for that day, and I did. I bought it because there was a beauty pageant at our high school. The Miss our high school won a duvet set, and I asked my older sister. I said, "What is a duvet? D-U-V-E-T." She said, "What?" I said, "Duvet." She said, "Duvet." I said, "No, there's no Y. It's duvet." Then she said, "No, look." Duvet set is a nice bedding, which is luxurious, not those cheap blankets of yours that are scratchy. And with my first pay, I went to Edgar's Church Square. I bought the whole thing, scatter cushions, you name it. It's a story for another day. Yeah. So
but I want to stay on this hope thing because 1963, Africans got together.
Yeah.
On the 24th and the 25th of May.
Yeah.
They got together in Addis Ababa.
Yes.
And they crafted what could be the master plan for the continent or the hope for the continent.
Right.
And the reason I'm saying I'm worried about that chapter is because we have not moved past that.
Yeah. No, you see, of course, one has to dream, one has to have hope, but you cannot stay in the hope phase. If you are stuck in the hope phase, when I had these dreams, I was like 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. Now, as somebody who's turning 49 in June, I'm still hoping to buy a duvet. I have to have new hopes, you see. So if you are stuck in that, and there are people who are stuck in that, one day I hope I'll achieve this. It's like many African countries. That is a problem. The hope in the book is that you have to hope for a better day, but you don't sit there hoping. You work towards that. You don't wait for somebody to come and make you realize your dream, Then you do that. It's a different type of hope. It's like there's a soccer team that say the day will come, The day must come at some point.
I think there's a lotto as well that goes like that.
Exactly. Then you're always on the day will come. The day will never come.
One day is one day. Prof.
Yeah. Something you'll never catch is tomorrow.
Yes.
One day is one day.
Ed, but I want to stay on that because I'm thinking one of the challenges we're facing as a continent. Right. I'm still on that, Prof. I'm still arguing with you about this. And that's why economists in 2000 called us the hopeless continent. Yeah. And so when you look in context to all that, how does that sit with you, that chapter? But what I do like, by the way, is you saying that you cannot hope in a vacuum. No. That you must have. But and the reason I'm on that subject is because I'm wondering whether the concept of hope isn't the reason why we are being abused today as citizens and as Africans.
Look, I'll say there are different brands of hope. And the one that I subscribe to is the one, as I said, you work on something to realize that dream. And when you get to where you aim to get, you get your duvet, you aim for getting married if that is at the top of your priorities. And you get to that and you do that. I think the problem with us, as a continent, is that the people have branded us into something, the dark continent and something like that. But we don't correct the narrative by working hard towards, addressing that. But where we have made progress, it remains that nothing is happening. I gave an example. We had a campus visit recently, and I said, I strongly believe the UJ brand is undertraded. You are a marketing guru. Prof. Hinson is a marketing guru. UJ is far, far, far ahead of what many people know it is. And people get surprised when we say we have built the best rescue center, which is the only one on the African continent, one of the few in the world. People's like, what? So I gave an example. Growing up, I looked at my siblings, younger sister and younger brother, and I said, one day when I work, I want them to smile. So with one of my early salaries, I bought them Lacoste sneakers. I never owned that. Okay, I owned one pair, but later. But I went there to this shop, and I bought them, beautiful Lacoste sneakers. They cost me an arm and leg, but I wanted them to smile. So I took them, I gave them, they were happy. I was brother of the year. And then the whole villagers went to check if they were real Lacoste. It's because nobody expected these poor fellows to own something like that. So it's like us, the African continent. One of my colleagues went to a university in Europe. During the break, they said, come, we want to show you a 3D concrete printing machine. It can print a house in 8 hours. And he said, no, I won't join you. We have it at UJ. We launched it actually a year ago. People were like surprised. They don't expect us to do that. Of course, we wouldn't go and tell them, people, hey, we have this thing. But people assume we don't. Or people assume we are wearing fakes. It's up to us to say, this is the real deal. But in our actions, we should change that later on people don't even think. If they see you wearing that brand, they must, at first glance, say, it must be the real deal. You get people wearing fakes because of how they act.
Yes.
They are praised, with fakes. But people who are wearing real things because they are expected not to, it's like us. We're expected not to wear, proper, to do things. People get surprised when we say 15% of our solar UJ energy comes from solar. Really, you guys? We've got electric buses. Really, you guys? And I'm like, what's wrong? Yes, it's happening here in Africa.
Because, Prof, we don't trust much anymore.
Yes.
So how do we restore trust? Because you see, if we trust, then hope can survive, can thrive, if you will.
It's true. Firstly,
because there was an element trust barometer which comes out.
Yes.
Nobody trusts government.
Yeah.
But luckily in higher education, I
Yeah.
think higher education was second to technology.
Yes.
So they trust machine and schools.
Yeah.
How do we restore trust?
Yeah.
Because I think, and I may be wrong, you may correct me, that once we rebuild trust, we are able to restore hope.
That's true. You are right. Look, the first thing is to have ethical leaders.
Ethical leadership.
We need ethical leadership. Leaders that, don't feel bad, about lying to people. Leaders that would lead by example. Leaders who would accept that they are human beings and they would come and say, look, I was confident that I would do this. I couldn't do it. I'm going to correct this and correct that. With us, people have feel nothing wrong about lying again and again to people. People do things that are not defendable, and people say, yeah, but I apologized, man. What more do you want from me? Even the apology must be sincere, and one must work hard towards earning the trust of the people. But where people take other people for granted, then they will never be trusted forever. That is the sad part, yeah.
Unfortunately, because we're going to vote on the 29th
Yeah.
Of May,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure about the turnout,
Yeah.
because people have lost hope
Yeah.
in politics. But we're not in politics. You've got a great opportunity
That's right.
from an education perspective.
Yeah.
And how do you then, from that space, impart or rather interest your stakeholders to never lose hope? What do you do here?
UJ is really an interesting setup. It's got amazing people, and I'm not saying this because I'm employee number one. We've got a lot of people who have, who share one goal, which is something that we are all passionate about, which is, I think every day we give people hope, because if you look at what we are doing, we didn't decide to become an elite environment. We want to show every day that access and excellence are not mutually exclusive. Majority of our students are first generation to come to university. We transform profession. There's no university that contributes black and women chartered accountants more than UJ. So often I remind our colleagues, Prof. Mashao will tell you, I say what we are doing here is God's work, because we are about ordinary people. We say we want to use technology to ensure that this technology has got societal impact. We go out there and do amazing things for the forgotten and marginalized people amongst us. And people don't need to be told. They see what we are doing on a daily basis. We transform lives. And that is something that puts us together. I remember there were colleagues that, in my various leadership roles, who wanted to leave and go elsewhere. And they say, Prof, no, I withdraw my resignation. I thought about the students and what we are doing here. I can't do it elsewhere. I'm staying. So we are brought together by the difference that we are making in the society. I had a student, that I taught, and I met him at a conference. I couldn't recognize him. Poverty can really make you look ugly,
Poverty can make you look ugly.
Not you, but in general, Now he's...
Prof looking at me says, look, poverty, what it does.
Okay, poverty can make one look ugly. And he looked so different. He said, Prof, do you remember me? I said, yeah. And he said, hey, the programs you offered, we have a feeding program and so on. The guy now, is a partner, I hope he's not watching, at one of the top law firms. He's doing extremely well. He's back to support and so on. It's guys like that when I see that, I smile. I say, we didn't only change the life of that individual. It's that of his family, of the place he comes from, also his children, like me. Education transformed my life. If it was not for education, I don't know where I would be. I wouldn't be sitting here with you. So we do it on a daily basis. And this is what puts us together as a university. And I'm sure UJ employees will tell you, and we are proud of that, transforming lives, having a positive impact on the society.
Having a positive impact.
Yeah.
I want to link that with your relationship with Stephen Ramafoko.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's such an interesting story that you cover here.
Yeah.
Because Stephen taught you how to clap people, how to beat up people in the streets.
Yeah. Look, many people don't believe it when I say I was a karateka. I'm still a karateka at heart. I'm not a practicing karateka. So don't ask me what is the difference. So what happened is, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, I was a street fighter, a dirty fighter. I didn't have an older brother. You provoke me, I'm going to fight you, but not to win. I didn't care about winning, and I'm not lying. I was proud of the fact that I stood my ground. And I lost many fights because I fought people older than me. I had no tact. I didn't choose my opponents correctly. If you fight me...
I don't get that, bro. Why do you didn't choose your opponents correctly?
No, but you have to see.
So you choosing correctly was choosing people that you can beat up.
Yeah. No, in the book, I've got an African saying that basically says, a coward, is itching for a fight when he sees people he thinks he can beat. So you have to look and say, oh, here I stand a chance. I didn't care. You're twice my age, taller, stronger. I didn't care. But as I said, I was a dirty fighter. When I was really angry, whatever I grabbed, it's by God's grace I didn't kill a person, because if I grabbed a rock, you better run. Those days, But
I didn't realize they use rocks for karate. But now we know.
No. I'm not done. It was before I found
karate. Before you found karate.
It was before I found karate, and I came across this gentleman who has a special place in my heart, Advocate Stevens Ramafuku. He was a teacher. Amazing guy. He taught maths and physics during the day. In the afternoons, he trained us karate, and at night, he studied law. This is the first man. I always wanted to study law because my dad used to say before he passed on, I was 6 when he passed on, he used to say, I want you to be a lawyer. Nobody could tell me at the village what it meant to be a lawyer. They said, you lie, a criminal walks free. But it was until I met Ramafuku, Advocate Ramafuku, who explained to me, said, no, there's no lying. There are books, criminal law. He was the first person to explain it to me. He was studying law part-time.
Yes.
And he was my karate instructor. So through karate, I became disciplined because karate is not about fighting, It was about discipline, and there are principles that I learned in karate that I live by even today: hard work, continuous self-improvement, and so on. And he had an amazing impact in me because he was my mentor. And I remember I was the dojo secretary. There were 2 karatekas that were ill-disciplined. They were beating people up at weddings and so on. I wanted us to kick them out of the dojo. I said, they bring karate into disrepute. He said, hold on, I agree with you, but we have a duty to keep them here so that we can mold these guys, because once they're out there, who's going to guide them? They're going to be worse. Then I didn't agree with him. I just respected his decision as the dojo, as the sensei. But now I see the wisdom in what he was saying as a leader. But now, to share an interesting story about Ramafuku, he mentored me and so on, and because he was studying part-time law, I was studying full-time. Shortly, after not such a long time, I was mentoring him. I would explain modules that I've already done, and then he finished his legal studies. He quit teaching. He's got a law firm, and he started a successful law firm. One day I come to my class here at UJ to teach labor law masters. Who's sitting in my class? Him, front row. I'm like, what are you doing? He said, no, I'm your student. Ever since he calls me prof, he never called me anything. He said, I can't fail in your course. I said, you better work hard. And hard he worked. But to fast track to today, and he complied with everything, no favoritism or anything like that, ethical leadership and everything. Today, he's my doctoral student. And he said to me, when I mentored you, I was not doing you a favor. I was doing myself a favor because today I'm your mentee. And I said, you're not making progress with your work. He stopped his practice. He got a day job so that he can be able to work on his doctorate.
Unbelievable. Because I think the beauty about that lesson for me is how at any stage in our life, you are somebody's mentor.
Yeah.
Or somebody's mentee.
Yeah.
Or the same person, the roles can be reversed.
Exactly.
And so there's this learning thing that, to me, when I read that chapter, I was like, so interesting you are, because you're trying to show, I guess, that we can all learn from each other.
Yeah.
And nobody's older, nobody's younger.
Exactly. I mean, now, when I talk to him, it's so embarrassing. I say, please stop calling me prof. He says, no, you're my prof and you're my mentor. And he insists on that. And he's older than me. He says, no, you are now my mentor, and I have to show that respect. No, prof. At funerals, prof. At weddings, prof.
You, Prof, everywhere.
Yeah.
You've earned it, Prof. Run with it.
Yeah,
Prof, I want to, because I want to make sure that we're going to get some questions from the audience. I'm so bad at this, I didn't even ask Prof how long we have to talk. Because, Prof, you know, we can talk the whole day.
Yeah.
It's not, my problem is not to talk. We can talk all day. But you have, what I also found so special about this book is it's not just back old things, but it is so contemporary that that it shows that as Africa, we were quite contemporary thinking, even in our time. I mean, you're talking about concepts of mindfulness.
Yes.
Those who are absent are always wrong.
Yeah.
And I found that so fascinating because I thought mindfulness is something new that the white people came with last week.
No. No.
We've always done this thing.
Yeah.
And in an African context, I mean, help us a little bit. I mean, you've got the Congolese quote for it. And how do you see this in an African context?
Look,
I mean, from an African leadership context.
Yeah. Look, now I don't want to get into trouble by mentioning people.
Mention them, Prof. There's a disclaimer at the end of the book, don't worry.
No, this is recorded. I used to go to a particular church, let me put it this way, and often priests that would never go to the main congregation, they would say, hey, last week when we were at the big event, Easter, this is what the leader of the church said. And I would ask myself, but you are not there. I don't mean to disrespect the priest. How often do you get people who were never at a gathering telling you what was said and what is the way forward? There's a saying, a lion sleeps with its teeth. If a leader is absent, it tells us a lot that we must be present leaders. How do we know what is happening, in the domains that we lead if we are absent? And being present is not all about physical presence, but it's also about being there, mind, body, and soul.
In their mind, body, and soul.
How many times you have leaders that are sitting there busy with their phones?
No, not in our parliament, Prof, they are sleeping.
You see?
Or is that mindfulness? Or maybe they'll be mindful.
No, it's not mindfulness. Okay. No. So those are problematic.
Because that's what they're notorious for in that thing. And then you go on to chapter 7. So I'm skipping chapters all over the place, as you can see.
Yeah.
Chapter 7, and then you speak about something interesting, approach.
Yeah.
And I was telling the team earlier that in the townships, they always say, the Xhosas, they say, I don't mind going with you, but I don't like the approach.
Yeah.
What does approach mean in an African context?
Yeah, it's...
and why did you feel a need to write a chapter called Approach?
Yeah. Look, one thing that I noticed in my life and also in my career, I held several leadership roles, I worked overseas. Often people have got an important point, an important message, but it's how they deliver it. There's an African saying, Setswana saying that lefoko ha le bue go bua monwana. Yeah. So basically, it's not the what that is being said; it's the how.
It's the how.
It's how you deliver your message. You can guide me. You can correct me in a way that you leave a lasting impression. It's the approach. Sometimes when I walk, I meet students who want to raise important points, and I listen to some, but some come already say, already that, already that. Already, it's not the how, the what, it's the how.
It's the how.
And you get a guy humble. I believe I'm a humble person and greets me properly and all that. Then I do my best to listen. Even I'm in a hurry, then I'll say, okay, here's my card, contact me, and I'll link you up with the right people. In our African culture, we've got it's Zulu. I think they call it isitakazelo. What is it?
Isitakazelo.
Yeah, those also worked, and it's part of the how.
Yes.
If you are in trouble with me and already when you approach me, and there's a colleague that uses my clan name very well, once when she starts saying, hey, Joe, the problem is half solved. It's like my wife, you know, when she want to raise something.
Prof, this is being recorded. They're all going to call you Tlo, and to get their way.
It's the how you say it, you know. Then it's a problem. It's like my wife when she wants to raise something. When she starts calling me Mpedi, so I'm already weak as a lamb already. You know. But it was just like, hey, Letlhokwa George. Already, you know, you become.
Defensive. Defensive.
Yeah.
So, Prof, do you find, and just on that concept of approach, and you mentioned student, because I was going to go there, that today, I mean, on campuses, there seems to be that combative relationship between the students and administration. Do you feel that we need to sort of re-teach or relearn or find another way of bringing the community together, says there is a way to do this? And I don't know, how do we do that?
Yeah. Look, I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush.
Just, no, in general, I don't think I'm not, and I'm not being particular to you, I'm just speaking generally in student leadership and all this.
No, we find
or you can go to EFF then.
I don't want to go there. Just in general, we find that people think when you are disrespectful is when you convey your message, whereas one can achieve a lot by being firm, but not attacking the other person, articulating a point, and we need people to learn that. You get a letter, it starts with revolutionary greetings. And I'm like, now, what revolutionary greetings now? You know, we grew up knowing...
You know it's on when you hear that stuff, you know.
We grew up learning at school that lekwalo la semmuso, you know, official letter. You know, when you write to a dean, you know, must write properly. Write to a vice-chancellor. One can't just write and, like, you know, I'm standing to hear from you. If you don't, I'm going to do that. Then I say, do what you want to do, you know, because you need to find a solution for this. Now you come with this threat, you know. So people need to learn that being humble is not equals to being stupid. You can articulate your point without hurling out insults and things like that. Some of us were raised by strict parents. My mother would whip the hell out of me if I come and disrespect others, you know. I'm not saying we should whip people. And this is where one learns to be...
They've got a constitution now, Prof. You can't say things like that.
No, you can't do that.
They now have a Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
No, you can't whip...
you can't whip anybody. Yeah. But you can whip, you know, with the tongue. The other day I had a young man...
No, then they'll go to a psychologist.
Oh, that is another problem.
So I don't think you're winning here, Prof.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, there are amazing students. When they engage with me and so on, I also thank them at the end. I say, thanks for your approach. Keep it up. And then they talk to others. We've got a men's forum where we bring all the young men. I lead that, and we talk about being a father, being a man. Doesn't mean you have to abuse other people and so on. We need to do more of those things. And people like ourselves, if we don't have time for young people, or if we act like we have arrived, therefore we must be arrogant. Others will aspire to be arrogant like us. But if people come and say, you know, I had lunch with one of our alumni. He's doing very well, and he was, you know, shaking all the time. I'm like, are you okay, man? He said, I'm sorry, I have to tell you, I never thought I would have breakfast with a vice-chancellor. I said, relax, man, I'm just like you, I'm from a village. I hosted one of our students from Japan. He was also shaking all the time, and I said, are you good, man? You are nervous. I said, yeah, it's not every day you sit with the university president. He said, yeah, this is unusual. I said, no, I'm also an unusual. Just relax, I'm also nervous, let's eat. And then everything was free and so on. Because people, once they get positions of power, they even change their movements.
Indeed. I did see how you walked.
I've changed.
I'm going to ask the community of UJ to ask a few questions, and then we'll begin to wrap up. Otherwise, Prof, your book is amazing, because I also don't want to read the book for everybody. I want to make sure they go. Does everybody have a, by show of hands, who does not have the book? Those 3 people, can they put up their hands, please? I told you, Prof, it's only, it's the whole, you have to buy the book. The book is us above. We're going to sign them.
Yeah, I will sign them.
We assign them.
I'll sign them, yeah.
Students, NSFAS money must have come in by now.
Thank you so much.
Let us use the money for the books. It's a textbook. But I want to get some questions from a few questions, and then we will wrap up in the next few minutes. Questions?
But I found a lot that I said, this don't belong in this era. This don't belong in my book. I also found some said, no, this one doesn't belong in my book. So I'll give you an example. There is this saying, actually it's another book on its own about how not to follow some of these African sayings. There is one which says, maybe you know it, it says, it says, if they are led by a female one, they will fall into a gorge, which is nonsense, which suggests that you can't have female leaders. And we've got many good female leaders. Of course, we need more. So there's a lot. And some are just, it's just insults that I thought they don't belong in my book. There is another one I won't say in full. It says, a beautiful person, a woman or a lady without a brain. Yeah. So I don't want those. They don't belong in this book. But to answer you, I found quite a lot. It's a separate book on its own. And we should not follow those.
Interesting. I appreciate that question, by the way, because I think it's so important to, because I think what you've done, both of you at Prof, is to try and show that even as a society, we have to evolve.
Yes, definitely.
And there's some concepts which were relevant and applicable in the past,
True,
but are not so relevant today.
Wow, that's a good question. You know, they say a good leader was once a good follower. I look at it in terms of my own journey as a leader. I always believed, one has to be humble, although there's a risk that you're perceived to be stupid if you are humble. And one thing that I did, being a good follower, was to always treat my superiors with respect, engage with them, with humility, point out things if maybe they were not right, and so on, but with respect. And in the process, because I believe I'm a good follower, I also learned from leaders that were not doing right things, where I said, should I hold this position? I won't treat people like this. There are leaders that enjoy having people run out of their offices crying and things like that. So my view, on being a good follower, looking at my own journey, and when I wrote this book, was that, if you are a good follower, you pay attention, you ask yourself, you reflect before you engage, you respect the leadership, you differ with respect, you are humble, and so on, and you do what you are engaged to do, because there are people say, they won't tell me anything, these people. We forget, to learn from good traits of our leaders, but also from bad things that people are doing. If you are a good follower, then, in my humble opinion, you manage to pay attention, and then you grow and learn as a person. Because most of our leadership lessons, are not only from books. It's what we live, what we see others doing, and so on. And many of us have learned a lot from many good leaders that we worked with, but we can also learn from bad ones. If we are not good followers, we won't pick these things. It's just coming in and going and then all that. Yeah.
I like that. So to be a good leader, you must always remember that at one stage you are a follower as well.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a beautiful mindset.
I've got a lot, one of them that kept me going is this: if you think you're too small to make a difference, you have never spent a night with a mosquito. You'll see the title of the book is From the Baobab to the Mosquito. Is two of the big sayings that I love many of the sayings in there. The Baobab one, you asked for one, but those two, that's why they had to be part of the title. The Baobab, the saying about the Baobab goes as follows. It's about wisdom. It says, wisdom is like a baobab tree. You can't embrace it alone. And the second one is about the mosquito. It says, if you think you're too small to make a difference, you have never spent a night with a mosquito. And this mosquito one kept me going. There were times when I felt insignificant, And when I thought of a mosquito, coming from a village when it's hot, one mosquito can terrorize you the whole night. You cover yourself with a blanket. It's hot. You take it off, the mosquitoes on your case until sunrise. So, yeah.
Prof, I sleep with doom.
Why you get doom at villages?
So, I just the whole night.
Apart from the proverbs that I thought these are not relevant for the times we are living in, my focus when I worked on this book was to make sure that it's structured in a way that it addresses contemporary issues, but it also gives a positive message of leadership. I guess there is a scope for having a different book, but then my aim with this book was I wanted people to feel good about being Africans, and I wanted people to appreciate that there's a lot that we can learn. You look at these sayings, some, issue warnings of things that you should avoid, as a leader. Some, give hope, proper hope, and so on. So in preparing this to answer you, I tried as best as I can that I don't come across as a negative person, because if we are negative, then you spread more negativity. I wanted this book to be a book that, gives people a different perspective that would make them feel good and say, but this is easy, and, and you saw how the book is structured, the hard copy, not the e-book. Sayings have been pulled out on the side. Even if you don't read, please read the book, but you page through, you can see all the sayings. And a lot of people, take that and keep that at the back of their mind. Somebody was reminding me about one of the sayings that if you plan to catch a black goat, you better do it before sunset, And was saying it laughing, I needed people to do that if they procrastinate, then they remember about catching a black goat, time waits for no man, and then act on that. So I avoided those,
Got it. Thank you,
negative
Prof.
ones,
And then, I think you've said you've avoided negative ones. You've avoided ones whose time has passed, which are not relevant anymore in the context of today.
The title, From the Baobab to the Mosquito, many people were wondering, what does that mean? As I indicated, there are two of my all-time favorite sayings. One is about the baobab. It says the baobab is, wisdom is like a baobab tree. You cannot embrace it alone. And then the mosquito, if you think you are too small to make a difference, you haven't spent a night with a mosquito. That's why I say, from the baobab to the mosquito in terms of what is being covered. But if you look at the subtitle, it's Rethinking Leadership Through African Sayings. With this, the aim is really to have people, rethinking leadership, in terms of what can be learned. I didn't want it to be a lame, boring title, Leadership Lessons from African Sayings. I want us to rethink leadership, from an African point of view. I mean, it pains me to see people going to Europe to learn about African leadership. Why can't they learn it here? I was attending one course overseas, and next door there were people, one of the famous people in South Africa who passed away. There's a leadership institute. I see them wearing this name of this person in South Africa. I don't want to mention names, and they were there to learn about leadership in Europe. I'm like, why can't they learn here? So that is the point. You see, there's no picture of a baobab or something like that on the cover. The former Vice-Chancellor, Professor Letlhokwa, who's an engineer by training, I'm a lawyer by training, he said, it is important that we write, and as leaders, we must also be thought leaders. We write about things that are relevant for society. And he said one thing to me, when you write your book, make sure about, not law-related, but things like this, which are important, make sure that you put your own picture on the cover. And then I followed his example, about that, That is basically the background. In terms of the content, I would urge you to read, the introductory part where I say why I wrote this book, why I focus on mainly Tswana sayings, disclaimers in terms of I don't claim to talk about all the sayings. There are many of them. And if this can encourage you to write another book building on this or bring another angle, I think we will go somewhere. Very much for that question, but by just having this in a book on its own is something that will be there for years to come, and I believe the next generation will read. Even there are people who have been around much longer than I have been on this planet Earth who say, "Oh, I didn't know about this one, this saying. Oh, I like how you unpacked it. I heard about it. I didn't understand what it meant, and in the context of leadership, wow, I never saw it that way." So it's already doing something. Especially when you have something written. If I could give you some background in terms of how I decided to write this book has been like more than 10 years in the making. From the days when I was dean, I had colleagues that would come to me and say, please provide us with a list of this. And colleagues from all walks of life, you know. And I would say to them, don't worry, I will write a book one day. And it took me forever to do it, but it's out. The fact that it's there on its own and it's written, it's there, it will be used for years to come. The other beautiful part of this, in my humble opinion, is that it's not just sayings. They have been unpacked to fit and to illustrate how this can help us navigate some of these leadership challenges. Already for aspirant leaders, current leaders, and so on, it's helpful. But one thing that excites me is that you have people from outside of the African continent who bought this book and who are so grateful that now they've got a different perspective about Africa and African leadership. And if we can educate people, also those outside of the continent, you know, about these precious sayings and how we think, you know, I believe will make a huge difference.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for your contribution. Prof, my final question to you is maybe my final two questions.
Yeah.
The one is after writing, after writing these things, whether it's an article, whether it's a book, whether it's a post or all those things, you always say, there's something else I should have said.
Yeah.
What is the one saying that you said, I should have included this here? It's the one saying that I think is so critical or so fundamental I should have had. What is that one saying? that you live by and you say, I should have included that.
Well, it depends on the hour and the moment. These things cross my mind and go. You know, when I fly, if I could show you the earlier rough draft of this book, you'll laugh. When I'm flying and I'm sitting, a saying would cross my mind, and then I would scribble it. So it depends on when you caught me, you know.
Right.
But at the moment, our colleague, the student, when he talked about Mahlogidiala Jisamut,
You're like,
it was one of those, I should have included that, you know. But it depends on when you catch me.
Interesting.
Yeah,
And then now having written the book, because what's also interesting is, because when one writes...
I remembered.
What is it?
Yeah.
You can run, but you cannot hide.
Yeah.
Beautiful saying. We know growing up
Yeah.
in a township, our parents will always tell us that.
Yeah.
That the crime doesn't pay.
Yeah.
We'll always catch you.
Yeah.
And Prof, now having written the book, and when we write these things, in a way, they begin to create a philosophy for how we do things or what we believe in. How has this shaped your leadership style at UJ, to wrap up?
Yeah. Well, this has influenced my style in many ways, you know. I mean, I even smile sometimes. It depends also on the situation I'm facing. There are things that reinforced my strong belief that as a leader, you should be humble. And, you must keep good company, and you must always apply yourself, and when it comes to applying yourself, this saying that, not every one who chased a zebra caught it, but the one that caught it chased it. I mean, as a university, we are constantly, aspiring to be better than we were yesterday, last week, last month, and so on. But you can't get to the next place. I won't be Vice-Chancellor forever, but, I say my predecessors took UJ here, and definitely I have to take it there. But I can't take it by just sitting, the hope we talked about. We have to apply ourselves. If you don't do anything at all, the answer is the same. But if you chase that zebra,
you'll get somewhere.
You will catch it.
And I think I like what you said, which is leadership is a relay.
Yeah.
I mean, you've spoken a lot that it's an example, but it's also a relay.
That's right.
That you bring it up to here, somebody else. Because and I think I was at your inauguration.
Yeah.
Investiture.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called,
Yeah.
sorry. And you're quite clear about that as well.
Yeah.
That it's not a new broom sweeps clean after Chilitsi.
No.
It is, how do I build from here while bringing in
That's right.
my own brands?
Yeah.
So, and I think you're doing a superb job with it. Prof, this is an excellent book. It's an incredible contribution to African literature on leadership. As Professor White said earlier, it's probably a book whose time has come. And like you said, it's not a South African book.
No.
It is not an African book, but it is a book from Africa that helps Africans and the rest of the world understand how we do things and how we lead. So congratulations and a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Today will not be possible at all without the contribution of the Johannesburg Business School. Professor Randall Carlson is here with us. So we want to thank you, Prof, for enabling this happening today as well. If you go to the library of UJ and the book is there, you have to thank the University of Johannesburg Library for the contribution to this. The UJ Arts Theatre, obviously we will not be here, otherwise we'll be out somewhere under a shed, right? So we want to thank them for the accommodation. And we've got a lot of colleagues, obviously, from the wider university who helped to make this happen, who contributed to this. And most importantly, I want to thank each and every one of you for having made the time to sit here this afternoon and listen to it, which you have to buy the book. So I only touched on 3 or 4 chapters, but there's 32 chapters in the book, but they're all beautiful bite size of insights. But this book will not happen if it wasn't because of Tracy McDonald. I want to thank the publisher as well for the work in ensuring this happens. Prof, I've had a long evening, flew 12 hours, spoke for 4 hours this morning at CBE, but I think this has been a beautiful way to finish my afternoon. And I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank you for your inspired leadership of the University of Johannesburg. That's really your contribution to African leadership. Thank you so much. Professor Letlhokwa.
It's not a bribe, but it's something to remember this day with.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If they didn't
The University of Johannesburg, the future reimagined.